This podcast provides a platform for our guests to express their own personal views and opinions. Some or all of these views and opinions may not be shared by Ben and/or Yoel.
The idea of living in the same place for 20 years, the same house for 20, 30 years, that's torture to me. I started seeing through my years of teaching kind of an advantage I had in parenting. Like I was not being stressed where I saw other parents being stressed. A lot of parallels between, leadership, whether you're a professional leadership space. There are also a lot of professionals in high level places that kind of have their families unravel, in ravels here because they can't balance the same leadership skills. It's my day planner. So my day planner, I split it into two sides. This is what I have to do, the chores and the tasks, and this is why, which is a deeper intention behind that thing.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Too Dad to Quit podcast.
The podcast where we highlight stories of dads on the other side of divorce.
To inspire and give strength to dads going through it.
I'm Ben.
And I'm Yoel.
Welcome back to the Too Dad to Quit podcast. You can find us on twodadtoquit.com, Too Dad to Quit on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share. We reach out to us. We do want to share your story. Everyone has a story to share, and everybody's story can help someone else. This week, we are sitting down with Jesse Swede. Jesse is originally from Pennsylvania and now lives in Spain. Both of his kids were born in Spain, and after a separation of just over a year, he is officially divorced as of recent. He has a very respectful divorce and co-parenting relationship. Jesse is grateful and proud of what he and his ex-wife are building. Jesse likes to empower parents to raise empowered kids. His tagline is, I create content to help entrepreneurs and parents to lead more conscious lives. So Jesse, the reason why I tracked you down was I just saw some of your posts floating around Facebook, and we're in some of the similar groups, and I was just super impressed at what you were doing. And we like to find those fathers out there that are doing more than just trying to survive or trying to do something productive with their situations and helping others. So I'm super curious how you got from Pennsylvania to Spain. Can you kind of get into that story?
Absolutely. So there's a lot to that story, but first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for doing this more than anything, because I've heard it a lot, and I'm sure you guys have heard it a lot, especially from mothers saying just thank you for doing this. Having an example that's out in the open for fathers to resonate with. There's a lot of content geared towards mothers. There's a lot of content geared towards a family as a whole, but I think fathers is an area that, for one, men, we kind of traditionally don't like to ask directions, let alone, in life, things like that. And to have a platform where we can all come together with our own issues that we face, like you said, with what I do, like becoming leaders in the house, not just this authoritative, domineering figure that probably many of us had, but really to show up as a leader and empower our children. So thank you for doing this. Yeah, and my travel to Spain, changing, it actually started in Spain, but then went to South Korea. I lived there for 7 years, from 2006, to 2013. I went there with the original intent to go there for 1 year, maybe two, to end up back here in Seville. Wow. It ended up building a life, 1 year to 2 years to three, to seven. And so I stayed there, then came back here. I've been here for 10 years. I've been teaching English for most of that time, actually all that time. And even now I'm working my way out of the English teaching space, but I'm a teacher at heart.
Wow. I have one of my old students. He also, trying to think where he went, somewhere in Asia, and was teaching English, and he came back with a wife, and then they had twins. But I think also that one of the YouTubers that I follow, his name is Drew Breeze, I think is how he's called. So he got his start traveling around. He would teach English, and then in between semesters or whatever, he would just travel as far as he could. And he started an entire vlogging travel channel, now a travel business, just based off of
Cool.
just based off of translation, English teaching as a second language.
Yeah, it's so cool. It opens up a whole new opportunities, because Asia, there's so many countries that are so close together. Same here as in Europe, right? So it's really easy to travel if that's your thing. People often think that I'm a world traveler. They're like, oh, so you love to travel a lot. To be honest, I hate traveling. I really do. I go to a place and stay.
Right.
Planning a trip and going to the airport and stuff, it's not really my thing. But going to a place, living in a different country, different culture, kind of feeling that discomfort at first, like I like that.
Wow. And do you speak any other languages?
I learned Korean when I was there. I've forgotten it a lot, most of it. I learned Spanish not before going there or here. I took Spanish in high school, but you know how that is.
Yeah.
I don't, because I'm Canadian, but I know with respect to French. So same idea, I guess.
I was gonna say, do you speak French?
Not as good as I probably should, but
Same here with Spanish.
Well, I was just gonna ask you before, like, what was your childhood like in Pennsylvania? Like what sort of gave you the itch to travel? And you just said, like, not traveling every minute of the day, but you have that longevity of places that you go to. But did you always want to sort of get out of Pennsylvania when you got old enough to travel, or
Yeah, that's a good question. That's an interesting question. I haven't really been asked before. And so I did always want to get out of Pennsylvania, and nothing about resentment or anything like that. Pennsylvania is beautiful. It's just like the thought of living, to me, my mom and I are completely opposite in this way. She loves her routine, her house, her chicken coop, like her ideal life is right there in security and safety. I am not at all. The idea of living in the same place for 20 years, the same house for 20, 30 years, like that's torture to me. So, but I always did have an eye to go out of Pennsylvania. I never thought really abroad. Like I said, we never grew up traveling. My first international flight was a college trip to the UK. And so I never really thought about another country until the opportunity to go to South Korea came up. But just staying in the same hometown, it just seems so confining to me. So it was always a plan to go out.
I get that 110%.
Don't follow that. Yeah.
I completely. I grew up in a tiny town in New Jersey, and when I used to go back, I moved out in 9th grade. And I never went back. But when I went back to visit, my mom, I go to the bowling alley, and it was the same people that were there for the next 25 years, sitting in the same seat. Hey, how's it going? And nothing changed, just their hair color, and they got fatter. And to me, there was not a chance I was staying there. Zero.
Yeah, that's the thing. And you know what? Going to different places, you'll see that. When I was in South Korea, and you start to get into that comfort zone a little bit, you end up going to the same bars on the same nights, which circuit has like poker night, and telling the same jokes, telling the same stories week after week. It just becomes the routine. And fortunately, I knew myself enough that I needed to get out of that circle as well, same as I got out of, my hometown.
Right. It's interesting because when I go somewhere, I like to know everyone. Like I'll get there and I'll know all the people behind the counter at all the restaurants, all the stores, and I'll walk down the block and I'll recognize everybody. Like I used to joke when I was dating my ex, like we walk in Manhattan and we bump into people I knew. I'm like a people collector, but at the same time, I'm not afraid to go somewhere at the same time. And I just take those relationships and, over X amount of years, however old I am, those people are starting to come around here now, and their kids are being sent here. So it's going really cool full circle. So it doesn't, the same people, that doesn't bother me. It's when I feel stagnant. That's what I meant too.
Yeah, that's just not the life for me. That's not what I want. So that's what took me out of there. And just the way that I ended up in South Korea, I visited my friend here in Spain. and just fell in love with it. I was like, and saw him teaching English, and it instantly went from something, oh, that's nice for him to do, to like, this is something I could do, and then we found South Korea was a lot easier and more accessible to me at the time. And so I started there. And I used to take martial arts, a Korean martial art called Tang Soo Do. So I was I had some familiarity with it.
Wow.
And your I guess your ex, you met in what country?
She's Spanish.
Okay, so you were already from South Korea to Spain. So what drove you to come back to Spain? Just that yearning that you were always coming back?
Yeah, there was always that thing like, when are you gonna go back? It was always there because this was my original goal. This was it. Yeah.
And now, sorry, I missed on the intro. You have 1 or 2 children?
I have 2 kids. Sophia is 8 and Dante is 5.
Oh, beautiful. Boy and a girl. And
yeah.
So now, I mean, in light of that, do you think that you're in Spain to stay for the foreseeable future, or is the type where you feel like I can take my kids to where I go? I mean, they have their mom, obviously, but I'm assuming you're going to be a little bit more grounded to Spain for the next little while.
Yeah, I'll be grounded in Spain for the next little while until, probably they grow up and go. Well, and also I am open to say, like, who knows what happens,
Right.
So I'm always open to options, but I'm in Spain. But even within Spain, even within Seville, like I plan on moving around and like getting, upgrading apartments or getting a house or something. Not even buying a house because that would keep me in one place, but like a house maybe on the outskirts of the town too, of the city too. So even within Spain, I plan on moving around, but I'm here locally for the foreseeable future until they grow up and go to college or whatever.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And when did you start teaching like parents and branching out beyond the English teaching? When did you start to like empower? And I know you have a piece in there of entrepreneurship. Is that how the English teaching works as well? Like, how does that relate to you? I guess is my question.
Yeah, like connecting the dots, right?
Yeah.
So my entrepreneur journey started with teaching English and English coaching, like higher level English coaching. And I was doing that for a few years and like struggling and like a stop start kind of thing. I never really found my specific niche, my specific, I guess you could say the word passion or whatever, with English. And I always felt bigger than just that, and nothing against English teaching. Like I said to actually somebody just earlier, someone who is South Korean, I was like, it's great for you. The non-native English speakers, you have such an advantage that most of them do not see, that they know the struggle of learning English and they know the importance and the value internally. That's something that we'll never have. And I just couldn't find that to grow that bigger. And I started seeing through my years of teaching kind of an advantage I had in parenting. Like I was not being stressed where I saw other parents being stressed. I was not concerned where other people were concerned. It was like all under control because I've seen 5-year-olds, stage phases, 7-year-old phases, 8, 9, teenage phases. Like I've seen all that, not only seen it, but like worked with it. Right. And so then I started started posting content in certain groups and like having conversations with people and like helping people. And then it's kind of like evolved from there. And because there are a lot of parallels between, leadership, whether you're a professional leadership space, there are also a lot of professionals in high level places that kind of have their families unravel, in ravels here because they can't balance the same leadership skills, or maybe they're not strong leaders in either, but they are in that position and they're kind of figuring it out as they go. So there are a lot of leadership principles to be followed in parenting.
Yeah, so I'd like to get into that. So, the entrepreneurs, there's a lot of, very successful people that also have families and I know for myself, the day job and the night job, or working from home or during COVID or whatever it is, balancing, like, I know with all my soul, I want to be with the kids, but I need to be at work. So what are these principles and things kind of that you try to give to other parents, and things that come up and solutions that you have? I think it could, definitely benefit our listeners.
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. The biggest thing, I guess, is being intentional. Being intentional with your schedule, with your day. Like, how do you plan your day? I'm not the most organized person, so I had to learn all this for myself, and I'm learning it too. To go by a day plan, like run your day by a day planner, and schedule in family time, schedule in taking the kids to practice, or whatever it is that you do in your life, right? Schedule that in, because I'm sure you guys are the same as me. If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't exist, and it's kind of bothers you when it comes up, Right. So put it in your calendar so that you see it, that it is at the same level of your business meetings, because it is. If it's something you have to do, it's not a bother. So I guess it's that become intentional with your day, become intentional with why you're doing each activity. And then I found just with that has made me more efficient with my entrepreneur duties, like the things that we have to do, message people, send emails, connect with people, all of that kind of feel like chores until you put a deeper intention on that. And then it's kind of like learning how to enjoy the ride, enjoy the process. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. Enjoy the process. That makes you more effective and efficient at what you do, and you have more time to parent, and your parenting becomes more intentional as well.
Right. And
so that even those chores are like, it helps shift your mindset, because I struggle with this a lot. A lot of I do it, it depends in what area, but a lot of times, even with this podcast, when I talk to Ben, sometimes there's certain things I look at it as like such a chore. But what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is kind of tie it to the end game, right? To the end goal. You're being intentional about what it's accomplishing for you, where it's taking you to. And that way you could be a little bit more, not a little, or a lot more efficient. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, and something I use, it's something I share with parents and I'll share with your viewers, and I'll describe it for your listeners. It's my day planner. So my day planner, I split it into two sides. This is what I have to do, the chores and the tasks, and this is why, which is a deeper intention behind that thing.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's like, what's my intention with taking the kids to whatever place, going shopping, right? What's my intention with going shopping? Well, to buy things. Well, if that's your intention, yeah, it's going to feel like a chore, and you're not going to want to do, and you're going to be resentful. But if it's like, have the kids feel helpful while we're shopping. Okay, that's a deeper intention, and that's meaningful. You know what I mean? So that's what I do. And even my DM conversations and emails that I have to do, what's my intention? To create connection, right? Something like that. To demonstrate love. That's another powerful one. I used to write like provide value. It started to get cliche, so I changed it to like demonstrate love, get in these conversations. And it kind of changes your perspective, and it makes you more effective in your conversations as well.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
I do it, I guess, subconsciously. Like my youngest, I pick her up from school every day, and there's a 45-minute break before I have to pick up the other kids, and I take her shopping with me. So I save my grocery shopping to go with her, but it's to show her A, how to shop, B, how to decide, C, how to live life. Like, look at, this is how you pick an apple. This is how you pick a cucumber. This is how you can go to I'll be waiting for the meat, and she'll run around and pick up the yogurt. She'll pick up the stuff. So she can now starting to read, and she can read this stuff. And the prize at the end, she gets a treat if she's good the whole time. Cool. So and then now she's starting to do the self-checkout. So she's like, all right, you do the bagging, I'm doing the checkout. So she'll do all the scanning and everything. So, it's intentional. It's not, I want to bond. This is something that she's going to take on for life. And it's very intentional, which to me is like the special time that we have, that I'll save things like that, like even cooking for the weekend. So I don't have them, when I have them Friday, I don't have them Thursday. So I could cook everything Thursday for Friday, but I wait because I want to cook with them. And it's very intentional.
Awesome.
So I'll sacrifice some time going out with them, but I know that for them to see me cooking and it doesn't just magically appear on their table, I think it's really important for them. So I totally get that, but I've never seen it like in a calendar done like that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, that's great. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you. That's been a game changer for me. And I started doing it because I couldn't do those tests, those entrepreneur tests that like, it's just like, oh, you find every excuse not to do it. And just like we can use for any test that we have, like the routine, boring test, but like Alex Hormozi says, like those are the things that makes the difference, right? And so then going with Simon Sinek's, like, start with why. It's like, how can I put that? So I, split the page in, and that's how I did, and that's how I've been doing it ever since. And that's one of the things I teach.
Wow, that's great.
I really like that. There's a lot of people that think everything is a chore. And
right.
And this puts it really, it could be a chore, but it forces you to figure out really what you can make of it. It's not even the why you're doing it. It's, I have to do it. What can I make out of it? Like I realized with my oldest daughter that when she was little, that everything was a teaching moment. Like everything. Going in and getting a cup of milk. Hey, where does milk come from? Like every single thing could be a teaching moment. And that was like an epiphany that changed my parenting completely.
That's awesome. Yeah, because with everything with them, literally everything is a learning moment. Really, it's just like, what are they learning?
Right. And they watch you. So you can turn it into a learning moment of the most horrible thing where you don't say a thing and they just watch you. Like my son last night, I was in shock. We were driving somewhere and he's like, do you want to go to heaven? And I was like, sure. And he goes, all right, don't worry about it. You're already in. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you don't have to worry about it. You're already in there. And it took my breath away. Like I was like, I didn't provoke him. That's nothing. Awesome. We were just driving in the car and this came out of his mouth. And I was in complete shock, but like, it's those moments where you're like, I guess I'm doing something okay.
That's awesome.
Just like, what? So
that's really amazing. Cool. Yeah.
So you also run like events that I saw, gatherings, or I'm not sure exactly what you call them. And that's local, online? How does that work?
No, it's online. Everything's online. And the last thing I ran was a workshop. I like doing workshops more than, master classes or something, because it gets people to actually do things rather than just be in receptive mode. So I had a workshop teaching through this workbook. I call it the Conscious Leading Playbook, just really working through that. And the calendar, the day planner is one of those activities and exercises to do. And I'm doing those once a month. I'm just figuring out right now this month's June's workshop, what that will be. And I think it will be based around parenting guilt. Like how to, get over parenting guilt, how to like quiet that voice and how to make things right. So like, you don't have to have parenting guilt affect your now decisions, and which will be bad decisions if it's affected by the guilt feeling, which will cause other guilt. So I think that's a really important topic to tackle. That's what I'm going to do next.
It was actually my next question. So can you give some fun examples of parenting guilt and how that can...
I don't know if there are any fun examples. I
was going to say fun.
Common examples or from your own life when like that's kind of gotten you down. And I think everyone listening knows what it is, but I think some real examples would help.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of a catch-22, doing a lot of self-development work. I've done a lot of self-development work, and that's and I'm eternally grateful for where I am in my own personal journey being a parent. And I'm grateful for that every day. I think of that every day. But it's also kind of a catch-22, because then you're so aware of how important these first 5 and 7 years are to your kids, that's where they are being formed as people. And you're like, oh, did I really have to look at them that way when they, I don't know, spilt the milk or something silly like that? Did I have to look at them? Because then you give them this like look. Let's say they yell back or something like that. They talk back or something. And you give them a look, and it's like this serious, like it's not like a you're in trouble look. It's like legit disappointment, and it's like communicated. So then I think back when they're sleeping. I just think back when I'm quiet and like cleaning up and stuff. I didn't have to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or if something, it could be something as simple like that, or something like I shared in a reel today, when you kind of blew up in the morning. Sometimes the mornings, they can be stressful, and I hate that, because the mornings are so important. And I'm intentional, going back to that word intentional. I'm intentional about being careful in the morning and being positive and starting the day off strong. But some days they get you. And I forget what happened, but you raise your voice, you're short with them or something, and then you can carry that guilt feeling with you all day long. And that guilt feeling can turn into projection to somebody else. Like the negative feeling you have towards yourself, you see it in somebody else, and then you blow up at them, or you carry that with you in your subconscious, and you just feel bad, but your brain plays funny tricks on you, and you don't think that you feel bad because of something you did. It's all of a sudden somebody else's fault or this, and then that bad thing happens. But really, you're feeling bad about blowing up at them and yelling at them in the morning for not putting their shoes on quickly enough, or you've told them 100 times to get dressed, and then you yell, and that guilt that weighs you down. That's the parenting guilt that I'm talking about, and that usually causes a domino effect toward other blow-ups.
So
Wow.
what do you do with that? How do you get out of that guilt?
Yeah, that cycle, right?
Yeah.
The first thing I would say is first accept that it happened. The sooner the better. If you can accept it and take responsibility, that's the first one that I think. If we're taking notes, if any listeners are taking notes, like number one, accept that it happened.
I always do.
That's awesome, dude. I always do too. And after you accept it, take responsibility. And that is the one that most people, not only just parents, but people fail to do, because, it's because if they would get dressed faster, or, if they would just listen to me, they do that all the time, every single time. Well, okay. Well, how do you respond every single time? Right? So taking responsibility as leaders, going back to leadership, like if a team loses, right? Quarterback, I don't really watch football, but I'm sure many people do. If quarterback throws, an interception and right at the end of the fourth quarter, and they lose the game. Okay. The quarterback gets some heat, but also the head coach gets heat. Like, it's his responsibility ultimately. Right. And it's the quarterback. Usually the quarterbacks are the leaders. Yeah. Right. And it's his. And let's say he throws the ball and the receiver misses it. Right. That, of course, the receiver takes responsibility, but so does the quarterback, even if it was a perfectly thrown pass. Why? Because he's the leader. And then above that, the coach. It's his responsibility. Why? Because he's the leader. And that's our roles. Even if, let's say, the kids were in there playing, something spills, of course, maybe it's not my fault. Maybe it was for some reason. Maybe my yelling at them caused them to think, and whatever. Either way, it doesn't matter. Let's take responsibility for what goes on under our roofs. And so that's it. Like, accept it, take responsibility for it, and apologize without the but, without the but. So not, I'm sorry, but daddy's under a lot of pressure recently, or I'm sorry, but I don't like it when you do that. I'm sorry, but no, homie, no. I'm sorry, that was not right of me to, and then explain yourself, explain and I've done this, I relate it to them. When you Dante makes you so angry and you just lose control and you don't know what to do. I feel that way sometimes too. Everybody does. And so it's not just, and I do this when she loses control too. You remember when daddy did this? That happens to me too. It happens to mommy. It happens to abuela. It happens to, so related, you can, going back to what you said, Ben, it can be a teachable moment. Absolutely. But don't alleviate that responsibility from yourself. So those are the 3 steps that I normally take.
Now, let's say, I'm curious because, so let's say there's definitely the accountability, responsibility, but let's say you've done that and, that's part of the point. You've kind of done it and you don't want to dwell on it because that's where the guilt comes in. But let's say the person that was affected keeps harping on it, right? So it could be a child, it could be anybody really, right? And they keep bringing it up, you did this and you said that. Do you have sort of a tip or something that, of how to sort of, acknowledge the fact that you've taken responsibility, but also saying okay, we've gone through this. I'm not saying this is the way you should say it. I'm asking you, how do you sort of approach somebody who keeps harping on something that you've done in the past where you've already kind of tried to move on from that after accepting responsibility?
Yeah, that can be rough, huh? That's more of a partner thing. Or maybe if you have teenagers.
Right. Which I do.
I'll see. I will see. So that's right. That goes back to, I guess, your own self-forgiveness more than anything else. If we don't want to be resistant to that, that's the one. And I have had that from a partner, from my ex, right? Then we had that. And and something, she tried to bring it back. And I just was yeah, that's true. That either. We need to be accountable for that too. I need to be accountable for that. And kind of something that's worked for me is to lean into that. Yeah, that's right. I do need to be accountable for that. And, like I said, I've, made it a point to be intentional not to do that again. If I do that, please tell me, have I done that since that time? And then ask them, have I done that? When have I done that? Rather than an accusing, when have I done that? But if you're when have I done that? Because I really want to know, we're not conscious of all of our things that we say and do. I may have done that again, and then it might spark to them well, okay, you haven't, but I'm still pissed off, but at least I haven't, we've come to an agreement that I haven't done that. You know what I mean? So yeah, that might work. Brilliant. Lean into it.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Nice. So I've really been enjoying your feed preparing for this call. So you have another thing which kind of hits home right now about what do you do when your kid is just not jiving with their teacher, and their teacher is the meanest, their teacher doesn't hate me, the teacher, I can't work with them, I don't want to go. So as a teacher, and I would love to hear any advice that you have for that situation, because I'm sure we're all in it at some point.
Yeah, I triggered a teacher on that reel too. In the comments, yeah. Nice. Yeah. So and I'm a teacher too. And I've been a teacher for 17 years. So I've been the the bad teacher that didn't jive with some students, especially earlier on in our careers. We start off, we're not good. And when you're not good, you kind of put a front that you're good, and you have less patience and things, and sometimes you have to teach ages where it's not your specialty. So I've been the bad teacher, I've been the awesome teacher, I've been the forgettable teacher. We've all been all of them. Something that I did with Sophia is, well, first ask her, like, what's the problem? Like, what's with your grades? You know, like, talk to me. Oh, I don't want to talk about this. It's like, well, why not? Right? I always try to get to why. Why don't you want to talk about it? Because it makes me feel bad. Why? And with this teacher, she just kind of like took a lot of desire to go to school and to do well, like to not only my daughter, it's like a general consensus. So like really understanding, I guess. And Ben, you said that yours are teenagers?
I've got 2 teenagers.
Okay, is this the teacher that you're talking about? Like
Yeah, one of them. No, well, yeah, one of the
Okay.
teachers.
Okay. Well, I'm just asking because it's kind of a different. Like mine was 7,
Right.
so like there's a little less reasoning, you know, and a little more
Yeah.
like word picture. Like first, like, you know, see their responsibility, have them take responsibility for their part. And something I told Sophia, well, you know, she yells a lot because probably she feels bad about, you know, things in her life, you know. And then kind of like I said before, you know how when you get angry and you're thinking about something, it makes you feel bad, and then Dante does something and you blow up at him, but it's because of the other thing that you're thinking about. That's probably what's going on with your teacher. And you know, I kind of feel bad for people like that, you know, and I kind of want to help them, to do what I can to help them. So I would kind of like turn it into more of like an empathy lesson, I guess.
Sure.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Sure.
That's what I've tried. I don't know if like 7 or 8 years old was too young. I don't know. But with teenagers, something with a little more reasoning might work like that.
Nice. You
I'd
also
like to know
posted
what other parents talked when I was the bad teacher.
well, all those former students out there, please let your parents know. So you also posted something cool for, I guess, any of us creative kids that, you know, always had a marker in their hand or a pen and just wanted to be creative, but not always there was a paper around, and or just trying to make homework fun. I thought that was really cool. So Jesse posted this thing where basically if you get washable markers and you have like a clear plastic or that they can put on the table and do their homework or learn math, or even using a mirror in the hallway that they can color on. So they have designated places. We definitely had one of our apartments where the whole thing when we moved was full of crayons and paint and markers. So I found this like a nice kind of within the limits of outside the limits, but it also, you know, for that kid who likes to doodle, but has to do work. So they can go crazy around the problems, but then you can teach them, and you basically have a whiteboard, which Yoel takes wherever he goes. And it's a clear board, and you can even keep it like one of my kids' desks. I actually got them, and it has that clear plastic on top, and they never use it for that. But the way you simply, just a simple idea of just going out and getting a piece of washable markers and a piece of clear, or not even clear, just a whiteboard that they can just stick on the table, and a big one, and just go to town and make learning and homework more fun than just writing in a tiny book. I thought that was brilliant. Hey, thank you for that. I would keep the tips coming, and if you have any more tricks like that, you know, we'd love for you to share them, because, you know, your background and your own kids, it looks like it's working charm.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and our top is a glass tabletop. That's really common here in Spain. They have these tables, and then they put like a blank, like a tablecloth on it, and then a glass top over it. So we use a glass table. Yeah, and of course their own table that's designated for writing won't be as fun as like the kitchen table, right? And so like use a mirror, use a window, like especially a window you normally don't write on. and I just had her work on spelling. I had her work, and also she did this exercise to this writing exercise with her mother to to, I guess, not overcome, what word am I looking for? To reconcile, I guess, an argument they had. So they had this like writing exercise that they learned to do. And she just showed me what they did on that table, because I just have the markers out there on the table. The kids love it. So they just come in and write notes. And I had their friends do it when they came over. They think it's cool because, parents don't think of that until we get the word out. And it's just really cool. Whiteboard markers, buy them at the general store, like write them, wipe them off with a paper towel or whatever. It's really cool.
Yeah, I actually just realized my kids actually do it all the time. I'm not, I'm busy in the kitchen, but on the glass patio door, my kids actually, the older kids turned it into a classroom for the youngest one. And they're teaching her how to write and how to read and how to do the math. And like, it's their whole classroom now, now that I actually think about it. So it's really cool. So your tips and your advice, everything is awesome. I know that you're recently divorced, but like, has your relationship with your own kids changed at all since the divorce?
I don't know if it's changed. My relationship with my ex has changed for the world's better. So I think in turn, then it's better with the kids because we have a more respectful relationship. So and since we're separated in different homes, it's not like we were in a situation where trying to avoid each other, just coming home at the last possible moment, whether she had the kids or I had the kids or I had the kids at home, and then she can't, we're just trying to avoid each other. And, so now that we're separated, we're very respectful. We have a good friendship, right? So I guess in that sense, the relationship with the kids has improved, but I don't think because of the divorce, in fact, Sophia goes to a little child's therapist, and she said by all of her accounts, she's not affected at all by the divorce or anything. So that's really good news. And but that's one thing. If anyone, is your audience mostly single, or are they separated, or are they together, or that's not really?
It's kind of all of it, and we also have 20% that are women, which is cool. So it's a big range. I actually had someone message me today, a female friend, and I sent her the link because one of our previous guests is also a dog walker with a kennel, and she needed a kennel. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to this guy's house. You want me to take the dog? And I sent her the podcast, and she wrote back to me today. She's like, hey, I've been watching. It's actually really good. So, that's awesome. Thank God the feedback has been really good.
That's awesome.
But, so we think there's something in everything. We're looking to help dads that are thinking about divorce, going through divorce, after divorce, but also couples that want to know what it's like. I think it's very helpful for them to it was during their consideration period. I think it's been very helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah, I only asked because just to see how I answer the question. So, but I just wanted to say, if you are going through a divorce, if you're going through a rough time, if you're going through a separation or something, it's so important not to talk bad about the other partner, with your kids, especially, or around your kids. That's easy to do. You're on the phone with a friend and then complaining. It's easy to complain about the other partner, but your kids around, and like you said, they're watching, and that's still their mother or that's still their father. And, I say that we have a respectful separation and divorce. It wasn't really always that way. We separated under, like I alluded to earlier, a little bit of hostile terms. But that's something that was so important to us, not to air dirty laundry in front of the kids. And if your other partner, and I think, there's always going to be people, well, I do that, but my partner, you have to tell him or you have to tell her, that kind of goes back to the personal responsibility. And we also aren't aware of everything that we say, maybe you are doing that, and more than you realize. And it's just really important to have that respect, especially in front of their kids, because it is respect for their mother at the end of the day, or their father at the end of the day. And, holding that resentment for the other one may just ultimately backfire and have your child hold resentment toward you, or even worse, themselves, So I just wanted to mention that too.
Well said.
So very important. So I heard you say umbrella. Are you, and again, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, is her family also, you're there alone in a foreign country. Do you still have a good relationship with them?
Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Everything's all kind of respectful, and like with her grandma, or with their grandmother, with, my ex's mother, like we're not besties or anything, but sure, there's definitely that respect. She actually made food the other day, and she's like, I have a bunch. She called me up the other day, and she's like, I have a bunch of this extra, whatever she made. Do you want me to set you a Tupperware and you come grab it? I'm like, okay. Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. And she asked, yeah, totally. And she asked me if I was going to the store, if I'd pick up some ice cream that she likes, and that she's like, well, I'm going to give you money for it, huh? I'm like, yeah. And then I went and got it. And she's like, hold on, I'm going to give you money. It's like, you won't believe it. It was the same price as that bowl of food that you gave me. So we're the same. She's like, she's like, okay, just a second. I'm like, yeah, okay. I wasn't going to be there when she came back.
Right. Sure.
But yeah, we're really respectful. And a lot of ways, like same as my ex, like more respectful than when we were together, Right. Yeah. Separation helps sometimes, separation from everything. Yeah. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, I guess.
Nice. And so, this is the Too Dad to Quit podcast. So we ask our guests to always share one of their Too Dad to Quit moments, a moment when they were proudest and happiest as a dad, when like they think of that moment that their face just lights up. And if you can share that with our audience, we'd really appreciate it. Yeah.
And because I read that just before coming on, I read that in the email. I was like, what am I going to say? and the one thing, if I can share two things, one thing that came to mind when you were telling a story about how kids are watching you, like when you were talking about making everything a teachable moment, we were cutting something with a box. We were making some sort of crafts, and I was cutting a box and with a box cutter, and somehow I cut my finger, and I was like, and those razor blades, they hurt, like, and then I do this and go just walk to the bathroom to wash off my hand, and with soap and everything. Like a few nights later, maybe a week or two later, like I see Sophie and Dante cutting, and okay, maybe I shouldn't have let them cut by themselves. Like I was there, but like I wasn't like holding the hand. I give them more freedom than I think many parents do, right? I'm into like them learning for themselves, and sometimes they get hurt. And that's just one of the cases. So like he was taking a knife and he cut his finger, and I just saw him. I was up here and I just saw him. And he gets up and just walks to the finger. He's 5. He has blood coming out of his finger. And he just, with his eyes closed, he walks to the bathroom and is breathing and turns on the sink and to wash his finger. I was like, what happened, Dante? And like he cut his finger. It wasn't bad. It was just,
Right.
And it just like clicked. I was like, how did he, like, why isn't he crying? Like, what is this? And is he in shock? I was kind of like almost worried. I was like, is he in shock? Is this worse than I realized? And then I remembered, I was like, this is exactly what I did. Like last time, like they're watching, like that's amazing. And awesome. I guess the one, dude, that it was so cool. It's like those parenting moments that are, it's not like proud, like, I guess it's proud, but it's not proud moments. It's moments when we learn. Isn't
Yeah.
that the most powerful? It's the moments when we're like, whoa, and it's just a magical moment.
Yeah. You had a second moment.
Yeah, the one that I was thinking is just the other day, we were having a moment, and Sophia, 8 years old, she starts to get on her own personality, I guess we would say, and then argue, fight, whatever. And this was a day when I was intentional. I woke up with an intention because a few days before, or for several days before, I was kind of on edge, a little less patient than I normally am. You know how that happens? You just things bother you that normally wouldn't. And then you going back to the parenting guilt. You get to the end of the day and you're like, why did I feel that pressure all day? That had to transmit to them. I didn't even enjoy the love. And I did so I just woke up that day with intention. I was like, I'm going to be intentional to make this day, to enjoy the moment, and to be filled with love and light. And so Sophia was having a moment, and I was staying calm and working with it. And so Dante, he was in the middle of eating, I didn't even know he knew this word. He's like, Daddy, you're a hero.
Wow.
And yeah. And he gets out of his chair. I was like, thank you, bub. And he gets out of his chair and just comes over and gives me a big hug.
Wow.
And it was one of those things, it didn't really sink in, the magic of that moment, until later that night. And then I got all teary-eyed and getting kind of choked up now. But
Beautiful.
yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Nice. So the last thing we like to leave our listeners with is some tips or advice that you have for anybody who's thinking about getting divorced, about to get divorced, on the other side of divorce, and just, they're fathering by themselves for their first time and just, banging their head against the wall, trying to figure out what to do and get it right. So anything that you can, leave us and our listeners with from your experience.
Just one. I guess something that I posted in a group just today. Just understand that going through a separation or a divorce doesn't mean that you failed in a marriage. It doesn't mean your marriage is a failure, and it doesn't mean that you're a failure. And a lot of the times I think that, going back to the guilt thing, that can weigh on us. And if we feel continually I'm a failure, my marriage is a failure, that what are you saying? You're completely playing a record in your head that you're a failure, your marriage is a failure, your life is a failure. And it's totally not that case. And even if you did make mistakes, or if your partner made mistakes, which you have made mistakes, they have made mistakes, it's nothing that you can't get over moving forward. So I would say the biggest thing, focus on you, focus on your improvement, forget about how it will look to others, forget about worrying about how it will affect your kids, because the divorce will not affect your kids. What will affect your kids is how you handle yourself in this time. And the best thing that you can do is to focus on you and your own growth, and lean into the love for yourself. And it sounds like what younger me would have been like, yeah, okay. But get in touch with that little boy inside of you, or that little girl for the moms inside you, and do some healing work. Forgive them, give them love, allow them to play. And by growing yourself and being at one and showing yourself love, you can then properly show love to your kids and show love to others in your life.
Well, that's great advice.
I got goosebumps. That's awesome, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Jesse, for any of our listeners that want to follow you, want to see what you're up to, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I'm Jesse Swede, Jesse J Swede, but Jesse Swede on Facebook and LinkedIn. Or Instagram. I'm connected there too, and just search my name on there and send a friend request, and you could send you that playbook that I was talking about too, if anyone's interested as well.
Amazing. And you run those meetings once a month?
Yeah, I'm gonna start doing them once a month on a regular basis. Yeah. And I'm
Amazing.
figuring out the day. I think Sundays are the best day.
Amazing. And anyone can join, or they need to
Anyone can
RSVP
join.
before?
Yeah, so I'll send, if they sign up for that playbook, they'll be on the email list. And that's where I'm mostly, I announce it and stuff casually on my Facebook page, but to not have it be like, spammy or whatever, like that's where I send like the direct links to join, the invitations to join, things like that. Yeah.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on.
This is great.
I now have a trip to Spain in my head.
Dude, Sevilla, come visit. Not in the summer though.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
And just for all of our listeners, this has been twodadtoquit.com, Too Dad to Quit on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Please reach out to us. We do want to share your story. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Too Dad to Quit podcast. Available at twodadtoquit.com. Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.